Two Americas. Have you heard that one lately? But is poverty in America as bad as some politicians say it is? In this week's edition of Heritage in Focus, analyst Robert Rector, who played a crucial role in crafting welfare reform legislation in the 1990s, gives his perspective on the recent poverty data released by the Census Bureau. I'm Matt Straight, and this is Heritage in Focus.
The Census Bureau tells us each year that there are about 37 million people living in poverty. When the average citizen hears that, they think that these are people that don't have enough food to eat or don't have clothes for their kids or so forth. But actually, from the government's own number, nearly all poor households have air conditioning, microwave ovens. 2/3 of them have cable TV. If you ask the poor parent, did you have enough food for your family? They will say yes. Were you able to obtain medical care for your family? Yes. Did you have enough money for all your essential needs? They will say yes. There's just a huge gap between the actual living standards of households that have cable TV and plenty of food and are not crowded and are not in dilapidated conditions compared to what people are thinking about when they hear 37 million people are poor. Children live in official poverty in the United States really for two reasons: low levels of parental work and a lack of marriage. The typical family that has poor children in it, the parents work only about 16 hours a week. That's why they're poor. They're not working, they're not earning very much. If you were to raise the work in those families so that at least one parent worked full-time, full year, 2/3 of those kids would automatically be raised out of poverty. The second major reason why we have children in poverty in the United States is that 38% of all children are born outside wedlock. If the mothers were married to the actual fathers of those children, immediately 75% of those children would be raised out of poverty. But we have a welfare system that rewards non-work and penalizes marriage. We're pushing people further into poverty. We need to change that, turn the whole system around. Of this 37-some million poor people in the United States, 1/4 of those are immigrants and their minor children. 1 out of 10 poor people identified by the government is actually an illegal immigrant. We are importing poverty from abroad through both legal and illegal immigration channels. And the reason that immigrants tend to be poor is that about 1/3 of them lack a high school degree. Among illegals, 50 to 60% lack a high school degree, and we're just bringing in hundreds of thousands of additional poor people into the United States and making them part of our society each year. If we seriously want to reduce poverty in the United States, we need to remove the illegal immigrants, who are 1 out of 10 poor people, but also substantially raise the skill level of future legal immigrants coming to the U.S. When you look at the typical poor child in the United States, if it's a poor boy, by the time he reaches age 18 or 19, he will be, in fact, on average 1 inch taller and 10 pounds heavier than the GIs who stormed the beaches of Normandy in World War II. He'll be taller and heavier than the average middle-class American teenager back in the 50s, the age of Elvis. If you look at the average nutriment intakes of poor children, they are virtually indistinguishable from upper middle-class children. They consume about 200% recommended norm of protein, which is the most expensive nutriment. The principal problem facing poor Americans is not a lack of food, but in fact too much food. They're much more likely to be overweight than middle-class Americans.
As you just heard, the data doesn't add up. Upper class and poor preschoolers have virtually identical nutrient intakes. Furthermore, 10% of poor people in America live here illegally. In short, the Census Bureau's poverty data doesn't accurately reflect living conditions. And we need to remember, for those who do live in poverty, that marriage and hard work are better solutions than bigger government programs that don't work. I'm Matt Straight, and this is Heritage in Focus. For more information, log on to heritage.org.